Mark and Gordon here for the Wisdom and Knowledge 5. We bring to you a special episode, I Got Banned. Our latest episode taken down within hours, right, Gordon? On YouTube.
You know how long it took. I checked it after you uploaded it. I think that was Wednesday. I checked it that evening when you put it up, and then I went to check it again a few hours later, and it was gone. I don't know whether it was up for 4 hours, 5 hours,
If
7
even
hours.
that. Yeah, I would say at the most like 5 hours.
And I mean, it's very disconcerting because Dr. Lorraine Day had a lot of very interesting and compelling things to say. And neither you or I, we're not saying she's right in everything, in every pronouncement she made, but she, in a free and democratic society, she should certainly have the right to express her views, her thoughts, her opinions. And yet YouTube comes along with their heavy hand and says to the population writ large, you're not allowed to hear that. That is thought crime. And it goes down the memory hole.
And yet they'll allow other stuff, child pornography, whatever it is they do allow. They'll allow this, that, and the other. And one thing she did bring up that resonated home to me is I used to have this Crohn's disease, and I used to trust in the medical doctors to do it, and they'd say, well, and I can attest that I would not be alive if I would be doing that myself. I don't care if they take this video down. I would not be alive. I changed what I ate, and that did the trick. I changed what I ate, stopped taking any medications, and I feel great. So that's just my personal attestament of what myself. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm just saying what I'm doing. So it's just really disheartening that they allow trash to be on there, or whatever it be, drag shows, you name it, and they won't allow someone who is well educated and she has experience,
intimately involved with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in the United States during the AIDS epidemic, with the Food and Drug Administration. Someone who's been on 60 Minutes, Larry King Live, Nightline, Oprah Winfrey. But that was in a different era. That was in an era when the heavy hand of censorship and Big Brother wasn't ruling the day. Now, so much of our communication is moved online. Everyone's using Zoom or Skype or other means of Facebook Live, digital communication. And now it's so much easier to control what goes out into public discourse. And it is incredibly disheartening. She spoke about something called lifestyle medicine. And I've mentioned it in previous videos, and they've been stayed up. So I don't think there's anything medically wrong about what I'm about to say. I've heard this from numerous sources, is that for the most important determining factors when we speak of human health are getting enough sleep, eating well, exercising, and managing your stress. If you do those four things well, likely your health outcomes are going to be substantially better than if you're eating poorly, not exercising, not sleeping well, and are under a lot of stress. If that's your lifestyle, if you're sleeping poorly, eating poorly, not exercising, and if you're stressed out, the chances that you're going to get sick with Crohn's disease or any number of other diseases, illnesses, I think it just stands to common sense that your increase is going to go, your health is going to go down and your ill health is going to go up. There's years ago, I heard a good line, and it was, someone has a headache. What do most of us do with a headache? Most people will take acetaminophen, they'll take ibuprofen, and they'll take a pill. Now, is the reason you got a headache because your body lacked acetaminophen or it lacked ibuprofen?
No.
Was it the lack of an over-the-counter headache remedy that caused you to get a headache?
No, not at all.
We attack the symptoms rather than what is the cause, what is the root cause. And if you want to cure, if people want to get better, they have to go at the root cause. And that was what was so enlightening about Dr. Day, is she went into detail about her cancer diagnosis, and rather than treating the symptoms of her malignancy, she went after the root cause. And here she is, 86 years of age, 30, 40 years after that cancer diagnosis, and she's thriving. Yes. She's in great health. So.
And the sad thing is we really don't know why they took it down. You know, it could be just because it's Dr. Day, because you don't see videos out on Dr. Day except for like the old ones, like the 60 Minutes and such. So,
yeah, and even the 60 Minutes interview, you can't view it. I can't view it in Canada on YouTube. No, you had to direct you to
direct you to BitChute, yes, which is where Lorraine Day's video is up, and it's doing very nicely. You can find Wisdom and Knowledge 5 on BitChute. So,
and then all you have to do is type in Wisdom and Knowledge, Dr. Lorraine Day, Lorraine Day, Day, and it's still there. It's also on Spotify. You might want to put the Spotify link down below with the description to this video.
I will.
But we have so much going on. Another guest we had on just recently, Libby, Lady Liberty Libby. She's just put out a video that's enlightening on her Instagram account. You shared it with me. I just shared it out myself, talking about these megazones in North America. It's not even
11. No, it's between Canada and the US and Mexico. Possibly Mexico. Yeah.
Yes, and Mexico. Mm-hmm. And it's talking about Agenda 2050 and about what's coming down the pipe. And we're all seeing what happened in Maui. Now we have the same things happening in Kelowna and in the Northwest Territories.
And they're projecting, what is it, hurricane for the first time in forever in Southern California?
Well, not the first time in forever. It's like the first time in 50 or 60
years. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So these events do happen. But now, whenever something happens, and a lot of people are questioning the wildfires and wondering, are we looking at wildfires? Is it arson? Is it so-called a direct energy weapon?
Yeah.
Because it certainly seems there's no question that these wildfires are being used to sell the climate change agenda and this drive toward net zero, and getting countries like Canada to destroy our energy sector. So the province of Alberta, which has one of the world's largest proven reserves of oil. And how are we going to develop that region? Canada's a cold country most of the year. How are we going to get heat in the wintertime if we're going toward this net zero?
That's a great point.
How high are energy costs going to go? I'm certain that Chrystia Freeland and Justin Trudeau and all the cabinet, they'll all be nice and toasty warm this winter. But will poor Canadians, this seems to be a war on poverty. And it's not a war in battling poverty, it's a war that is going to promote poverty by driving up the cost of living to insane levels. What's happening down in the U.S., in your corner of the U.S.? Anything happening weather-wise?
It rains every day. So but one thing I wanted to touch on about California is I lived there for 10 years in the LA area. And the joke was, when it rains, people don't know how to drive because it rarely rains. Now, you brought up a really good point because I think it was like 93 or something, because my dad used to watch Jay Leno, every night. So I'd watch it with him often. And I know there was one year, I think it was 93, where it just rained for a month. So they have had heavy rains and stuff, but that's the only time I remember. But down here in the talk in the US is that the Biden administration in the middle of September is going to bring back all the COVID restrictions. Have you heard of that?
Yes, that's being promoted now. Alex Jones and his InfoWars channel has claimed that they have insider information stating exactly what you just said, that the Biden administration is planning to bring back the masking and all the COVID restrictions in late September, early October. I look upon it two ways. By having Alex Jones put it out there in InfoWars, that automatically ensures that, probably at least half the population is going to completely disregard it. The other way I look on it, other way I look on it is this: is it a trial balloon? And what I mean by a trial balloon is they scare you by saying, oh my gosh, all the restrictions are coming back. We're going to have masking. We're going to have this. We're going to have that. And then come late September, early October, maybe they bring back in some low-level restrictions to start. And they say, oh, well, you see, it's not, that was a conspiracy theory. We're only bringing in mandatory masking in medical centers and only in high-density indoor congregate settings.
Maybe traveling on airplanes or something.
Maybe traveling on an airplane, maybe things like that, but it's nothing like they suggested. And then that can be the thin slim of the wedge, and then it expands from there. And then before you know it, my biggest concern is come the fall, what's going to happen. We have this new Eris variant out. Instead, we're told that it's a subvariant of Omicron, and that the new jab that they're coming out with September, October, that it will be targeting specifically Omicron and its subvariants. And my fear is that once again, they will mandate this shot, this new shot.
Oh, it's coming down the pipe hole. That's for sure. And the climate is ramping up, but both of them at the same time. And I was talking to a Christian friend, who brought up a great point. He said, "What if they hit you with all these things at once? Climate, this, that. Oh my gosh, the world is collapsing. We need to." And then they usher in the digital currency and what have it.
Well, if you want to look at everything that is coming, climate, obviously, COVID, or goodness knows, this respiratory syncytial virus, RSV, flu. So you got disease, so you have climate, disease. Then what else is there? The whole trans, LGBTQ, etc. agenda that people are pushing back against. Then you have the war in Ukraine, and goodness knows there could be an escalation. That war could escalate. Different countries could become involved, or you could have a situation where Taiwan and China.
Yeah, they're ramping things up too. You hit it right on the nose there.
And then there's always the Middle East. The Middle East is always volatile. So we could have tons of different things coming at us. And it's sensory.
Another thing too that my good friend talked upon is, she said, from Arizona, she said that grocery prices are going through the roof. She's right about that.
Yeah. What kills me is one thing I noticed: a loaf of bread a year or so ago in my town, you could get a loaf of bread for 80, 90 cents. Now a loaf of bread is $2. Wow. So that's 100% inflation in a little over a year. Gasoline was somewhere in the neighborhood of, kicking somewhere around $1 a liter. And now in Canada, at my local stations, it's pushing up around $1.70 a liter.
Wow.
So it's nearly doubled. And yet that same grocery store where a loaf of bread has gone from 80, 90 cents to $2, if you want a 6-pack of donuts, sugary donuts, those are $2, and they were $2 over a year.
Yeah.
They're the same price. You want to buy garbage. You want to buy garbage that's no good for your health, that's toxic. Here, same price, no inflation.
Sure.
But if you want a loaf of bread, Here you go. I mean, it's kind of a play on Marie Antoinette's old line, let them eat cake. They're keeping the cake cheap, but food that you need.
Now, what's the difference between people, you know, cost of living obviously is much different, but in a place like Brighton, as opposed to like when I went to Toronto in February 2020, and that's why it's so amazing that we connected, because I was up in Toronto the first week in February. Everyone said, you're crazy. You know, I stayed right across from the stadium, you know, on 14 York Street. And I noticed when I was in Toronto, that it seemed taking the trains and also taking like Uber or Lyft, that people were just, you know, fighting just to struggle, just to make it. Like they would have to constantly work just to make it. I examined that from the city.
Toronto's cost of living is insane. If you want to buy a bus shelter, you're going to be paying $2.5 million. Where I live, Brighton, a good 200, we're about 100 or so miles east. It's a very rural farming area. Housing costs are much less. Housing costs are significantly lower, but everything else, I mean, mortgage rates are going up for whether you live in Toronto or whether you live in anywhere in Brighton or anywhere in Canada. The cost of servicing your mortgage has gone through the roof. Sometimes 30, 40, 50%. People are having to increase their payments to service their mortgage. And they talk in Canada, we have what's called the, you know, annual rate of inflation. And Trudeau's Liberals keep boasting that it's one of the lowest rates of inflation in the Western world. And it's only, a while ago, they were saying it's only 2.2 or 2.3%. And that's impossible, because what they have in Canada is they have a basket of goods, and then they measure what those baskets of goods, what the change in prices has been. However, what Trudeau's government keeps doing is they keep changing the items in that basket. It's not static. It has to be static. Otherwise, it's not a fair measurement. When you talk about a person's cost of living, when their mortgage payments have gone up 40%, when their grocery bill has doubled, when their cost of filling up their car has doubled, people have seen their own personal cost of living go up 40, 50, maybe even 100% versus what it was a year and a bit ago. So this 2 point whatever percent inflation rate is fiction for 99.9% of the population. If you're Justin Trudeau, if you're Chrystia Freeland, and you don't own a car and you don't have a mortgage to pay, well, then it's lower. But for everyone, for any Canadian who's working, the hit to the wallet has been huge.
Now, one thing that I did notice that I never told you about is I was coming just when this thing was starting, February 2020. Yeah. And you know what you did at the Toronto International Airport? You went on the computer when you got there and you just touched a button and they said, have you been to Wuhan, China lately? And then what was the greatest thing that you're going to laugh about this is coming back, right? I got completely, they came to me and they said, hey, you know, and I was surprised that I didn't see more Canadians in Toronto. It's very multi, you know, I'm like, where are all the Canadians at? Anyways, so when I'm in line to go back to the US, this was to Arizona, they say, you've been pre-selected to get, you know, like a strict, you know, pat down. You've been pre-selected by American Airlines to get a strict pat down. Oh, well, whoopty too. A lot of, I'm like, gee. And these were actually Canadians. They're like, hey, you know, I'm like, please.
So you got an extra level
I
of
did.
security?
And my friend that came with me, because he said, yeah, you know, I said, hey, I'm here. You know, they didn't say, are you with anyone? Well, he said, you know, I'm with someone. So when he came in, he said, yeah, I'm here with a friend. We travel. Well, what are you doing here? What do you? And then they're like, well, where's your friend? So they stripped his whole suitcase twice, checked it to see him.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Well, strikes me that the part of the goal is to make travel as either as unaffordable and as inconvenient as possible.
But what do you know about this? Because when I was coming back from Michigan, I went to Michigan last fall. I was at the Denver airport, and even in Phoenix, and Air Canada always had the announcements, all the Canadian airlines, you have to mask in the plane. They were still masking. Did you know that?
Yes, I know that Canadian airports had mask regulations in place long after everyone else had let them go.
Okay.
And it was insane. And the thing that gets me is I still see people out in retail establishments and they're still masking.
Oh, sure. I think now even more because of the, whatever.
Panic porn news.
It is.
And buckle up because there's more coming. This agenda, call it Agenda 2030, 2050, 2045, call it the Great Reset, call it UNSDGs, call it whatever you want. The entire world, as we have known it, is being. Did you see that Simpsons episode?
I did see it. It was less than impressed as the other Simpsons episodes that predicted stuff. I'm like, okay, but I did watch it.
It lent fodder for discussion for those who believe that the Simpsons predicts everything and who believe that the wildfires in Hawaii and elsewhere have been caused by this so-called direct energy weapon.
Well, did you see also, get this, maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, is Mountain Dew put out a
yes
thank you, the Maui Dew with the two tikis, and this was in 2019.
I was thinking about that Simpsons episode, and I think it's episode 1 or 2 from season 28 or something.
No, episode 1. It is
episode 1, season 28.
It is.
Okay. And the thing is, a statue that's been erected and turns and rotates focuses the sun's energy and starts sending out a laser heat beam that just fries all of Springfield to the ground. And the next thing you know, there's all the townspeople are standing in the town square. Kurt Vander, whatever, Milhouse's dad, his arms got cut off by the laser.
Oh, that's right.
And they're all complaining. And Mayor Quimby says, "We will rebuild."
Exactly. Yeah.
We will, and everyone starts chanting, "We will rebuild." And the thing that echoed in my mind as I started to think of Build Back Better.
Better, yes. And the one thing that resonated me with that episode is what they did was they went to Monty Burns, and Monty Burns said, "I'll do it, but I got to put on a show," because when he was a kid, he was embarrassed when he put on this talent show. He went out there looked like Huck Finn or something, did some dance, and they all laughed at him. And that was the premise of the show. After that,
I only saw the clips.
Yeah.
And
I watched the whole episode.
Yeah, I watched a complete.
But think about it. So what is their solution? Go to the rich guy and have him take care of us.
Yeah, they ended the episode with 6 months later. They start with "We will rebuild. We will rebuild."
Oh, yeah.
And then 6 months later, they're driving through downtown Springfield, the Simpsons family, and the entire town is still destroyed. Nothing's been built back. And Homer is just still saying, "We will rebuild.
Yep.
We will rebuild." And then Marge says, "We have no choice but to go talk to," and then the clip ends.
Then they went to go and talk to Monty Burns, and Monty Burns finally agreed after trying to kick him out twice. And said, "If you put on this show, if we put on a talent variety show, then I'll do it." So
might have to dissect that a little further and wonder if that has any meaning. I'm one of
variety show, yeah. I think they've already done that with the LGBTQIA and all this.
Well, you talk about art imitating life, and remember, don't forget what happened in East Palestine, Ohio, where there was that major train derailment.
Oh, yeah.
And a cloud of vinyl chloride was in the air, and you had animals dying, farm animals, wildlife fish floating in the rivers. And that was a year or two prior. Netflix had produced a movie that was called White Noise. It starred, what's the name of the actor who plays Kylo Ren? Adam Driver?
I think so, yeah.
Adam Driver starred in it. And it was a movie about a small little town in Ohio where a toxic cloud results from a train derailment crash.
Well, they're always doing this, because look at the episode with Jason Christoff.
The episode we did with Jason Christoff, he talked about it, programming and normalizing, and in this film, White Noise, was filmed. Part of it was filmed in East Palestine, Ohio, the very place where the actual derailment happened. And the people of East Palestine, many of them, were extras in the mass evacuation scene. So picture yourself being a resident of East Palestine, and in 2019 I think it was 2019, they filmed this movie.
I know.
And you participated as an extra in a mass evacuation, leaving your home and driving out of town because you're told you got to leave. And then 2 years later, you're actually being told again, now you have to leave for real. This is not a movie. This is the real thing.
Yeah. Well, I've lived in it. I mean, look at me getting sucked into doing these Hollywood TV shows. I was on this show, The Last Ship. It was a TNT show, Michael Bay, the guy that did Transformers, and all of humanity was wiped out by a pandemic, by a virus. I mean, not a pandemic, I mean, but a virus. The Navy ship was off sea, so they were saved. And get this, one season I was the guy with the plague who was left for dead. The next season I'm a White House staffer. So guess where the White House is in this show? We're filming in Culver Studios. The White House is set in St. Louis. So does that have something to do with the Agenda 2050? That the White House is in St. Louis, centralized? Who knows? But they, you know.
So the actual White House, the White House.
Yeah, and you know what? I haven't watched that many episodes. I saw myself in one of the scenes where I was a White House staffer, and it's funny because I'll break down the Hollywood movie magic. They had us take our shoes off because our shoes make too much noise. So we're wearing our suits and we're, in the little office. All that I remember there's a map. I should have studied it more, but I didn't know this was coming. This was like 2016, 2015, 2016, 2014. Around there, 2014 or 15. I didn't know this was coming, but they had a map. I remember Vietnam being on the map. I don't remember much else that other than the lines were that the White House was in St. Louis, and I think there were plaques saying the White House was in St. Louis.
Who knows what's happening?
No, we don't. Yeah. And you got to take these things with a grain. Not everything is predictive programming either. So,
yeah. But getting back to the title of this episode, this podcast, or I Got Banned, Dr. Lorraine Day can be viewed by going to BitChute, Wisdom and Knowledge, Dr. Lorraine Day. She has some amazing things to say, Mark.
Or Biblical End Times, Dr. Lorraine Day is an easiest way to find it. Just type that in.
And I know why it got taken down. I mean, there's no question in my mind.
But she doesn't have any recent videos up on YouTube. So they might just take down her name. Well, something comes up by her.
She used the word hoax.
Ah, yes.
And she said the entire thing, and I'm not going to say what entire thing.
But we know, yeah.
But we all know what the entire thing is. And she takes the medical establishment, which is the new god in our society. Dr. Robert Malone, when we had him on, he talked about this cult or religion of scientism and how we have now Dr. Anthony Fauci saying, I am the science, which is a scary notion when you think about it. It's very much akin to the way that the world used to operate back in the 12, 13, 1400s, when you had the things like the Spanish Inquisition, and you have this supreme leader declaring what God says. And if you go against what this individual, what this person in that era, it was the Pope. Now you can't go against what Dr. Anthony Fauci says. And look at how many times Anthony Fauci has proven to be wrong.
Many, too many. That's for
He's
sure.
proven to be wrong over and over. 95% effective, long-lasting, sterilizing immunity to infection. That was fiction, but it was official fiction, and it was the only thing that you were allowed to say. To contradict it, and you go down the memory hole.
And we're not afraid of our channel getting taken down. If it gets taken down, you know, it gets taken down. We're not going to shut up. That's the main thing. We're going to continue to speak out. We can't be silent.
The one thing that unfortunately, you know, YouTube is the public square. YouTube is ubiquitous. YouTube, everyone uses YouTube. Not everyone uses BitChute or Rumble
Spotify
or Odyssey or these alternate channels, when YouTube is the go-to site for videos. And so being able to speak on that platform is helpful, because it is. Get back to when we had Dr. Lorraine Day on, we talked a lot about this, the public square, about the ecclesia or ecclesia, as she said it, and how Jesus had said, on this rock I will build my ecclesia, my ecclesia. Christians are to be in public square. Well, it's hard to be in the public square when the public square is being run by authoritative dictators who are taking things down for Orwellian thought crime. So
I'm with you there.
I don't think we
for
said
sure.
anything in this video that will get it taken down. I hope not. I differ with you just slightly. I want to stay up on
Oh no,
this.
I wasn't talking about this video. I'm just saying in general, if we
Right.
bring on more and more guests, yeah.
All right. So like, share, subscribe, and comment down below, because love to read your thoughts, love to engage with you.
Yeah.
And also criticize. If you have some criticisms, throw them
Feedback
out.
too, yeah. Pro feedback, whatever.
Yeah. We'd prefer you not to be mean and say Gordon's ugly and needs
One
to
other thing,
put on a toupee or
Yeah.
things like
but
that.
one other thing that I wanted to mention is, get this.
Right.
Now what they do when you put up a YouTube video is they say they automatically put on there that hold all potential comments. They won't allow you to have, you have to change it. You have to personally change it to allow all comments now.
Very good. Well, for my own channel, I'll fix that.
Oh, that's why you haven't been getting any comments. Okay, good to
I
know.
get some. I don't get many on my channel. I get a few here and there. I got one today. I might get one or two a day. Someone scrolling, landing on it.
Nice.
But I'll go and change that. So again,
All right,
like,
yeah.
share, subscribe.
Yeah, look for more great interviews in the future. And thanks a lot.